All right, welcome everybody to the purple session. I think I know almost everybody, but I'm Andre, the co-founder of Open Topic. I've got Jeff with me and Jan, who is one of the main architects behind Sia. So we'll introduce you Sia today, if you haven't seen her yet, and show you a little bit what she can do and the different integrations. And before we do that, we're all about partners. Obviously, IBM is a big partner. We'll have a special guest here in a little bit who's a partner. Another partner of ours is MWLUG. Some of you might be familiar with the movie Minority Report, where they have these big virtual screens and just moving information left and right and sharing it, and that's MWLUG who created that. And MWLUG does these virtual meeting rooms. It's kind of the next thing after video conferencing, which are pretty cool. And we work with MWLUG. MWLUG is a big IBM partner. You guys bought a bunch of these mezzanine screens. So we'll kick it off with a quick video of what we think is just the future of collaboration. So hopefully you guys can hear this. Yeah.
To solve our biggest business problems, we need to see and share better data faster. Mezzanine is the platform that allows teams to visualize multiple streams of information simultaneously and in real time. Mezbot is the tool that brings cognitive information directly into Mezzanine. Let's say your marketing team needs insights on Boeing. By simply typing a question into Mezbot, the latest news and trends on Boeing will dynamically populate on Mezzanine's multi-surface canvas. The data automatically updates as the team adjusts on the fly and drill.
Welcome, Conference Wireless.
We'll need to examine further. Mezbot, powered by Sia with Watson from Open Topic, can pull cognitive information from any data source, including social media, SAP, Tableau, Salesforce, email servers, and other enterprise data systems. Mezbot can also be integrated with applications such as Watson Workspace, Slack, and Microsoft 365. Running AI applications in Mezzanine upgrades your infrapresence experience, turning meeting rooms into cognitive rooms for smarter, better outcomes.
So that, in our opinion, is collaboration at its finest, and certainly how we envision Sia to work. And Sia is not a standalone product. Sia is something that we put on your team and integrate into your environments. Together with MWLUG, we call it Rooms. We're doing roadshows between IBM, MWLUG, and us, where we go into these mezzanine rooms in different cities around the world and present the boardroom of the future, the social media room of the future, the finance room of the future. MWLUG brings the sharing and display technology, IBM the collaboration tools, and Open Topic with Sia brings the insights, the data, and the recommendations. So that's our strategy, and we'll break down what that looks like in different environments besides MWLUG. So most of you will be familiar with this, and then we just had a new user join us a second ago, IBM Workspace, and we are one of the 3 official third-party apps in Workspace, and fully integrated into 5 different demo spaces here. Thank you to this guy, by the way. So in Sia, and we have rooms for consumers, for banking, for healthcare, for industrial, and a lot of IBMers actually that are very active here. This is me who did a query earlier. You simply ask Sia, like any other team member, hey Sia, can you give me this information, this piece of news, this trend, this insight? So imagine a team that you're working with. Imagine a marketing team, for example, which is kind of the historic background of Open Topic. We're a 4-year-old company out of New York City. You're a marketing team and you want to spend money on a new campaign. How are you going to do that? In the old world, it's based on your experience. Somebody that says, well, YouTube is the big thing, and cats on YouTube are the best there is ever. Like engagement rates, oh my God, they're crazy. But they don't have data to prove them, right? We bring you that data and those insights right into your team and your collaboration environment. So we actually did that, and I'll get back to Workspace in a second. with these guys and their digital marketing agency out of New York, Publicis. It was during the Olympic Games last year in Rio, and it was one of these creative guys. And he just sees colors and ideas and shapes. It's a different world. And he had this idea that during the Olympic Games, the media is going to talk a lot of shit about female athletes. Rather than saying, you know, Serena Williams is a great tennis player, the media, TMZ, or somebody might say, Serena Williams has crazy hair or a short skirt. And Unilever and Dove, with this My Beauty, My Say campaign, wanted to run campaigns around it. But they needed the insights, and they needed the insights when they happened. So we actually connected, in this public version, the Messbot that we just showed you in the video, we have 150,000 public sources connected. Social media, web, RSS feeds, bloggers, influencers, and so forth. For Unilever, and that's part of the big strategy, we connected live radio and live TV as a data stream. So the data that we analyzed, text, images, video, audio, in real time, highly complex and huge amounts of data, came from those data streams. And what data streams you look at, what data sources, is very important in our CS strategy. So we were able to tell Dove, in a collaborative environment, they had a backend, a campaign tool that we integrated Sia with. We were able to tell them whenever somebody in the news, in the media, was talking shit about Serena Williams, you know, and this is obviously now in workspace, so I'm making this up, but you could say, you know, I need sentiment on Serena Williams, and you know, it's going to take 30 seconds, you see, 25 passed, so it took about a minute to get the results. And Sia is going to present you with, oops, no data, is going to present you with the insight, come on wireless, but you have a sentiment chart that shows you negative, positive. Okay, something negative might have happened, right? You want to find out what that is, so give me some more insights about Serena. You just asked for the insights. And you're going to get the screenshot, and you can click on the screenshot again. Let's see if this one works. It's loading, yeah. And you can start to dig into it. You get more news, more detail, more insights. And they are cognitive insights. Things such as sentiment, popularity, relationships, personality, tone. Insights that allow you to understand how people think, feel, what they talk about. So we're not about analytics. We're not about telling you clicks or something that just happened. We are about telling you how people function and what makes them tick. So that in this case, a marketer that is trying to do a big campaign, this creative guy at Publicis working with Unilever, can better engage somebody online. So you know, you can consume these insights, you can look at it and you can say, oh hey, this is interesting, Serena Williams, Wimbledon, we know that, but something is going on with Roger Federer, you know, okay, we'll click on, sorry I'm not good with Mac, we click on Roger Federer and you see all these insights adjusting. So it's going to take a few seconds, and now Roger Federer is the biggest entity here, everything adjusted. So this marketer can start to dig into this, and what Unilever did, Dove, is their job, their creative job. They did PR, they did Instagram campaigns, they did parties, they did Twitter engagement, they did everything that they could think of. But they did it in a collaborative way, not using Workspace, but their own campaign tool where Sia was integrated, and they did it based on data. So that was very, very new for them, and a way to really use data in a team environment. Let me show you another example. All right, our friends at Messbot, Oblong. And that's a white label solution, right? They were kind enough to put our logo on the top left, but it's Messbot. And they're going to market with Messbot, which is exactly the same thing. And you saw what it looks like in their mezzanine rooms. Oblong doesn't work a lot with marketing teams. They mostly work with sales teams. The biggest presence is here in DC, where they work with the federal government a lot, and you know, surveillance and those kind of things. And they need the same kind of cognitive information for these teams. And one example that we had just a few weeks ago are these guys, and it's my favorite example lately. Boeing, you know, Boeing pitching an airline, Boeing pitching United Airlines. Who are they going up against? They're going up against Airbus, right? The CEO at United Airlines knows the specs of the Boeing plane and the Airbus plane inside and out. You're not going to win that pitch based on pitching your product or saying, oh, Boeing is awesome and Airbus sucks. You know, you need more data, you need more insights. So you're a sales team, this is how you can use it. And you can simply ask again, we'll say hi. Sia or Mess Club will hopefully respond. And now you can ask for those news. Let's see, I need news on Boeing, if I'm able to spell it. There we go. So it's going to get the latest news on Boeing. But it's not only going to get the latest news from Boeing, it's going to get the most relevant news on Boeing. You can start to filter them by category. Do I want business news, political news, social news? Do I want news from a specific region? Do I want news with a specific sentiment, a specific relationship, or specific entities? So they become highly relevant to what the sales team in this scenario is trying to achieve. And the data source, I started to talk about that earlier a little bit. This public version looking at 150,000 open sources. In the case of Unilever, live TV, live radio, what data you're looking at is very important. And what we see in the case of sales teams using Sia for insights is email. Email being a source of insights that allow you to beat the competition. And we work a lot with banks, financial services companies, and they are all about prospecting analytics these days. How do we...
So, Andre, can Sia also initiate communication with me? So rather than me asking me about Boeing or my client, or if I'm in the financial services market and something starts to happen that's got negative sentiment, can Sia come and alert me and say, did you know this? And then I can dive deeper.
Great question. Sia is about 6 months old. I know she doesn't look it, but she's a young lady. She, in the next few weeks, is going to learn how to listen.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. And we are also going to move away. I can show you a mock-up later on my laptop. We're going to move away from just showing you these widgets to actually verbalizing it. So rather than you going to, okay, there's negative sentiment, maybe that's interesting. So what happened? And digging into it, we're going to try to give that to you. Like, hey man, noticed you were talking about Boeing and whatever team, and we noticed that last week something negative happened, and we noticed it was related to these two entities, and we noticed that the news volume spiked on August 2nd. So we're going to give you that insight.
Yeah, it's a great combination because Watson Workspace, which you're in, knows what you're talking about, and you guys know what's happening in the market.
Yep.
Combine the two.
Absolutely. That is the idea. Go ahead.
We use Watson Workspace for a customer. How do I get Sia in our?
So in Workspace, it's very simple. You simply go into your admin or space settings. Sorry, again, I really suck with them.
We add Slack and other apps.
So we're one of the 3 official third-party apps. You just click on it. It's a 5-minute install. You get to play with it for free for 3 days. Then unfortunately you have to swipe your credit card. But it's probably the cheapest AI application on the market that you can get. It's $125 a seat a month, which might sound like a lot, but this uses about a dozen different IBM Watson APIs and all of our own technology. It looks at immense amounts of data, as I mentioned, and the next one that I started to talk about here, our special guest, email, for example. If you want to understand email, highly complex conversations, attachments, PDFs, data tables. So there's a lot of processing power behind it. So our goal as a company, Open Topic, is really to build ready, with a flip of a switch, out of the box AI applications for collaboration. So 5-minute install. If you want to connect a custom data source, other than the 150,000 public sources that we have, we need to talk about that integration and API endpoint integration, and then you're good to go. So back to a sales team, and what we see a lot pitching banks and other companies, as I said, is we believe we have all the information internally at German bank to beat Goldman Sachs for the next merger and acquisition deal, or the next oil shike for a big multi-million-dollar loan, whatever it might be. We have that information. We just need to find it when the phone rings, and we need to understand it better. And that's what we do. And in that scenario, email becomes the data source, the primary data source, and it's all about how do you engage in a collaborative environment, a fragmented mobile workforce with those insights, and then sync it back into their CRM and other systems. And we'll have our special guest, Ken. You want to talk a little bit about what we are pitching together to customers for the sales use case?
Sure, you bet. Thanks, Andre, and thanks for the memo on the check purple shirt today.
Yeah.
We did well.
Oh, nice, good.
And I
need purple socks. Good. I like
purple
it.
socks. I'm on it. So good morning. I appreciate Andre having us out here this morning. Let me switch over real quick. I've got just a little bit of background. So I'm Ken Lorenz. I'm the Director of Sales and Alliances at Riva. Fortunate enough to work with folks like Andre as we start to build out our strategy. And let me just go back up here. I've got a couple of slides. I promise not to PowerPoint you to death. So Andre started talking a little bit about integration with email and thinking about accessing public related data, and then start thinking about, well, what's the private data, right? What's in email, and frankly, what's in structured systems like CRM systems. What Riva's bringing to the table in this particular dance is helping Open Topic gain access to some of those additional data sources, right? Around email access, around CRM systems, and so on. So, kind of take a little bit of a shift for a second. Why is CRM so important, right? I mean, everybody's talking about CRM. Like, show of hands, how many folks have implemented a formal CRM system in their business? Got, okay, a fair number. What, Salesforce, Microsoft, right? Okay, so we got a little bit of a mix out there. We're in the age of the customer, right? Can somebody tell me when we weren't in the age of the customer? Right? It's always been about the customer, but here's the relevance. The customer today, as you know, has the ability to learn much more about us and our products and our services before they ever engage with us personally than they've ever had before. Well, what do we do to differentiate ourselves from our competition? One of the things we can do is be smarter about our customer, right? Go to them with the right message, go to them with the right positioning, tailor our message very clearly to them. And CRM really becomes the hub of that information if every organization is sharing that. At the end of the day, when companies think about CRM, and why do they really invest in it? I think you can come up with 1,000 reasons, but at the end of the day, it's about connecting the dots. What's the problem, right? Is there a problem? There is a problem. The problem is CRM is not that one view of the truth. And part of the reason it's not is because there are things that we keep personally, let's say in notes mail or in our calendar, that we don't share with the rest of our organization, right? And why don't we do that? Well, sometimes we're not sitting in Salesforce every day, right? We're not logged into it when we're sitting on an airplane necessarily. We're mobile, we're on the road, but where are we? Usually we're in our email, we're in our calendars, and we're working through that. At the end of the day, to a certain degree, sometimes we get lazy, right? We have a pertinent conversation about a relationship, and we fail to take that and transcribe that into CRM or sync that into CRM. So what Riva does, and where this comes into play, is that we help drive that synchronization process. There's really two things that we're doing, and they tie in very closely with Open Topic. One is, and it's not very sexy, unfortunately, but it's plumbing. It's how do we move that information, that pertinent information from Notes and Domino, and move that into the CRM system that I'm using. So I start to mesh those two things together. And then once I've done that, how do I surface those insights in a way that's meaningful and happens where I happen to be living? So what we do, we've got a sync service that sits between Domino and Notes, moves data over to CRM, and we work with all the major CRM products. Basic stuff, and I'm sorry, this is a little bit of an eye chart, but we're syncing emails and calendar items and tasks and contacts, but then we're also taking some of that CRM data and bringing it back to Lotus Notes and starting to push that through. And so that allows us to start to connect the dots, if you will. So Andre was showing, actually before I go there, our Riva Insight product in the Notes environment puts a sidebar in Notes, right? So, and it's hard to see, but I'm highlighting an email from Abe and Alex. And as I'm looking at Abe, in the sidebar starts popping up information coming from CRM, coming from public sources like Google News and Wikipedia or other sources. But we're adding a number of different partners here in our ecosystem. One of them happens to be OpenTopic. And so I can get access to Sia sitting in Lotus Notes, visualized via Riva Insight. So, you start to think about, I'm on the phone, and a customer calls me, or one of my reps calls me and says, we need a strategy around blah, blah, blah. Here's a really rapid way to surface a lot of this information quickly from a number of different data sources. So we're excited to work with you guys. I'm going to flip it back over to you.
Okay. So this is a great example of really focused collaboration around a very specific data source with a highly specific use case, sales. And that's really what we're trying to do. Where do I get back to?
Just Alt tab, right here, Chrome. I got you.
Sorry.
No, there. You don't want to go to Safari.
There we go. I got it. Perfect. So we've tried to build these ecosystems of partners for specific use cases. You saw Oblong, which is all about the big rooms of the futures. Boardroom, media room, finance room of the future. The example with Riva, which is really focused on what this bank that we speak to together calls prospecting analytics. I'll give you one last example. And we have a beautiful colleague here with, what's your hair color?
It's pink,
Oh,
obviously.
come on, we did it 3 times. I think it's purple, just like Sia. But can you just in one quick sentence say what you do and what your issue is that you're trying to solve?
So I run, you guys, most of you know me, I run the ICS community, and a lot of times I'm asked by my executives, to kind of give them some idea or sentiment about how things are going in the community, what the issues are, and I have a set of maybe 100 people who blog on a regular basis in their own blogs, and I have really no good way to know when they're blogging, what they're blogging about, what the sentiment is in those blogs, or if there are any issues. And so I approached OpenTopic yesterday or the day before, and they said, oh my gosh, your use case is exactly what we do.
So what she needs to be more effective at her job is the right news, the right content at the right time. But what you said, only if it has a certain sentiment.
Yeah.
And if you can also tell me more stuff about it, that allows me to make a better case with my boss, get a bigger budget maybe,
Right.
and just expand what she is doing, right, within her own community. So we have Sia in, a lot of you people know this community by now. It's an open connections community. So we have an integration here where you can do exactly that. And another use case is HR, for example, which runs a lot of communities like this and needs to create engagement, right? For that you need the right story, the right content. You need to know how people feel, what they're talking about. You need to be able to listen to them. Well, Sia can do that, right? You just drop Sia in a widget here, and you ask her, same as we did in all the others. You say hello, she's going to respond. Ultimately, she's going to listen to you and chime into the conversation and say, hey, I noticed this is your issue, or you're talking about X, Y, Z. Here's a really interesting piece of news or content or an insight that might help you do your job. So here you can, let's ask for, I need news on, we're on banking, so let's do banking. And we have about 1,200, banking is what we call a category. We have about 1,200 categories. So you can ask for, strawberry ice cream if you want, news on strawberry ice cream, right? And all of this is powered by Watson. So everything that you see here, this is not a keyword search. And just like the tech cloud that we showed you earlier with Serena Williams, Roger Federer, those are not keywords, right? That is rooted in a cognitive understanding of the data source, a natural language processing, a speech to text, a visual recognition. Then we contextualize that data, we classify it for taxonomy, we train it for accuracy, and that's what you see. So what you see here is highly relevant information that allows you to better understand, again, how people feel, think, and what they talk about, so that you can, better do your job, engage people, convert people in a sales pitch, and so forth, right in your collaboration environment. So, go ahead.
We're a Connections Cloud customer as well, happy with it. Our UI doesn't look like this. Are you using like XDC or something for this in the cloud?
I'm glad you're asking. I was just going to segue in a minute of Open Topic history. Open Topic is about 4 years old. As I said, we're based in New York, and I'll answer your question in a second. And we started out as one of the first IBM Watson ecosystem partners 3 years ago. And what I just said, all these technologies behind it that allow you to understand these data sources, highly complex, unstructured data sources, and give cognitive insights on them, that's been possible because for the last 3 years we've been able to use all these Watson APIs. And we're building a proprietary stack around that. So all these technologies come from IBM, but it's our ability to put them together, to train them, that makes it ready to go and frankly affordable. This product at IBM would cost 10 times as much as in our scenario because we've trained it and customized it for it. The reason I'm bringing that up is because our first account manager was Mr. Senbobo, who just walked in at IBM Watson, and he left the IBM Watson team a year ago or so, moved to Boston, and he's now, I'm going to go on record here, working on the new version of Connections and specifically LiveGrid, and will be a partner in LiveGrid, I think, right? We'll be in there. Say yes. Say yes. So we'll be in LiveGrid, we'll be in Pink, and we'll also be in the new engagement center, XCC, absolutely. And that doesn't matter, right? All these things are just iframes, widgets, rich content windows. It can be an API integration. Putting Sia into a collaboration environment takes a day or two on the technical side for us. So yes, we'll be in there. That's Sia. Any other questions?
So back to his question, how are you getting the newer experience in Connections?
Yeah, so the ICEC, we have an integration with that coming out next week. So send us an email and we'll ship you the demo. Yeah. And LiveGrid, when LiveGrid comes out. Say yes, Sam. Come on.
Say yes.
All right, good.
Is eventually like the XCC acquisition is that gonna be opened up to customers later so that it's just a feature of Connections?
Yeah. Yeah, so
It's probably not more of a question for you, but
Right.
probably an IBM question.
Yeah. No, but we're talking to the IBM teams about it, and it's just a widget that sits there, right? So they're going to have a marketplace. I think in general, the strategy on the IBM side, and not to speak for IBM, but is to consolidate everything in one marketplace ultimately. So official third-party apps such as Sia will be available through the marketplace. And so far we've always been able to be a launch partner. So hopefully we'll be available even before the marketplace is available. And we're going to do a verse integration as well. So we're covering all of IBM products.
When's the verse targeted?
That depends a little bit on an IBM salesperson. We're a startup, so the way we build products is when a customer asks for it, and that's a 2 to 6 week timeline with this specific opportunity that we have together with an IBM person. Good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.